Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday Live with Alan and our Greg and our guest, Steve Donoghue. Say hello, everyone.
Hello,
If you're in the
Bookstore.
comments, drop in some comments. Oh, already says 11 people here. That's great.
Well, Steve's on.
Of
I think
course.
Steve was our highest. It's his second time on, by the way.
Yep.
And, yeah, one of our highest rated or liked shows. Thanks for coming on again, Steve.
Yeah, thanks.
My pleasure. My
Great.
pleasure. Let's see if we can get that number up to 100. That would be great.
That would be great.
100?
Now, the views do go over, I mean,
Way over 200.
over 100 over a few days, but we are
No, I mean the people in the chat.
on the chat.
Oh,
All right.
I mean, after
Maybe.
all, Greg, if you're going to ignore chat comments, why ignore only 3 when you could ignore
yeah,
100?
that happened last time. I remember. Yep, we got way behind.
We got way behind. So let's just say hi to Jenny. Say hi to James. Say hi to William. Pat, book chat with Pat.
Jess,
a book TV girl. Okay. So one of the complaints I got early on is that we get talking to books too quickly, and the latecomers are upset because they miss the good book talks. So let's just do a little bit of a normal chit chat and then get into the books. So it's Memorial Day. Did anyone do anything fun for Memorial Day?
I did. Well, not for Memorial Day. I read on my couch all day long. That was enormous fun.
Oh,
I didn't do anything other than that.
yeah. I didn't do anything. I'm still in my pajamas, man.
My neighbors had a Memorial Day cookout. Steak, chicken, hot dogs, corn. So I stuffed myself.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, nothing like that happening here. Everybody's out of town here. Everybody's going elsewhere to do that, probably to the shore. So tonight, around 10:30, 11, 12, the street will be full of cars, people sheepishly coming back to town to go to work tomorrow.
Oh, I hated that feeling.
Yeah, and I live in an apartment complex. We usually have an event, but everybody took the day off. There's no one
Randy.
down in the office or Randy's here.
Yeah, Randy's here. Said hi to Randy. And Jenny says a chat with Steve is incomplete without at least 3 digressions. Of course, digressions.
I have plenty of digressions. You just put a coin in the
digress.
get as many as you want.
All right. So, Steve, as the guest, you get to kick off the book talk and mention a few books either you're currently reading that you want to talk about or ones that you recently read that are good to talk about.
Well, I'm sure they're. I forgot that's how we do this on this show. Oh, right. Okay.
Yep.
I can show you a couple that I read today.
Sure.
The first one is coming out in a month. It's this.
Birds aren't real. The true story is.
It's like a thing going around. Go
I
ahead.
never in a million years thought this conspiracy has been going on for years, since 2016. I wonder why.
Birds aren't real.
In a million years thought there'd be a book. Never in a million years. This is a book about the conspiracy theory that the government has been ruthlessly killing hundreds of millions of birds and replacing them with bird-shaped drones in order to spy on everyone all the time. This is a conspiracy theory that was born online that says that there are no birds anymore. That birds aren't.
Have you heard of that, Greg?
I have never. Now, is this a semi-reputable publisher or is this a fly-by-night publisher?
I don't remember. No, this is semi-reputable. They just, it's for them to put it forward to you. They're just it's so self-evidently insane that if I were a publisher, I would put out a book on it. Absolutely. This was born of Trumpism. This was born of there is literally no one anywhere in the world at all who is good except Donald Trump. He's the one person who's good, and everything else is evil. Everybody and everything, especially the deep state, the so-called deep state, who created, have replaced all the birds in the world with drones.
Well, that would be quite some achievement.
It was silly. I actually found it enjoyable. The only part of it that I didn't like was that occasionally when I was reading it, I realized that some of the people being interviewed are a fraction of the tip of the iceberg of people who actually do believe this. And that's not silly. That's not fun.
Now, does that include chickens?
No, it includes everything. Yeah.
Oh,
So am I eating a drone?
But especially the flying birds. They're the particular focus of this is flying birds. The architects of this conspiracy theory realized pretty early on that they and Al's point is exactly right. What do you do with chickens and turkeys? They realized early on, we have to say they're fake too. And then another book that I read today was this: The CIA and Imperial History. A short history of the CIA's operations overseas in the last, say, 100 years. That I thought was really good. This was really, really good. I wanted to pat the head of the 8-year-old who wrote it. Oh. The author's name is Hugh Wilford, and I didn't check his biography. I'm assuming he has an 8-year-old son. Because the level of sheer, incredible naivete in this book, no adult could even simulate it. It wouldn't even be possible to do. This had to have been written by a small child. And so what an achievement it is. A major publisher, a hardcover, how wonderful. Well, Hugh Wilford is an actual adult. I don't know who Little Timmy or whatever his name is, whoever wrote this, the conclusion he comes to at the end of the book is that sometimes he thinks that sometimes the CIA might have done things that weren't on the up and up. Yeah. It took him a long time to figure it out. It was practically an adventure. But once he figured it out, he thought, I don't think these people are entirely on the up and up. It was certainly the most promising book by an 8-year-old that I've read this year.
And I have to jump the comment line because Hannah said something. A fly-by-night publisher for the book about unreal birds.
Yeah.
Just remember, when you see them flying across the sky, they're spying on you, and they're not.
Is that what I'm supposed to hide? What I'm doing? That's illegal,
or even what's legal?
Even what's legal?
They want to have all the information, all the data in the world about everyone who's not Trump.
Who's not Trump? So they want to see which book I'm reading on my back deck,
right?
Because if I'm reading the wrong book, I may be who's the Niedermeyer. Martin Niedermeyer in his list. Well, he just reads bad books. He's probably down the list a little bit, but not the top of the list.
The sentiment behind way at the back of these is that there is nothing and no one anywhere in the world who's good except Donald Trump. Just him. And literally everything else you see, the seas, windmills that are generating electricity, birds in the air, every human being, your own parents, your own children, they're all evil except him. There's only one good thing that's ever been in the world, and it's him.
And how many people in this world
I don't feel so good.
Or this country? I presume there's not too many people outside the United States believe that, but there's enough.
No one outside.
Outside the United States. Yeah.
No one outside the United States. No. People outside the United States increasingly look at the United States as a gigantic lunatic asylum, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong to do that.
He's not. Jim from Mystery and Mayhem, he's here. On our show, he described it as living on the second floor of an apartment and then listening to your neighbors down below talking about burning down the building.
Oh, man, that's a good description.
That's a good description.
It is a very good description.
Because I live on the third floor.
Gets right at the heart of the arrogance that I often hear from people in Australia or the Netherlands saying, boy, you really have it bad over there in the United States. I always wrinkle my nose at that because, okay, you live in the Netherlands. All right, fine. That's great. 15 minutes off your coast is a submarine with enough nuclear ability to irradiate the entire surface of the planet. That's 15 minutes off your coast. That quaint little fishing village that you take your grandmother to for fish and chips. 15 minutes off the wharves of that place right there is a nuclear submarine. So, and Australia? Ask an Australian how many American military bases are located on Australian soil. They'll say none. They'll say none. Ask an employee of the Australian government how many American military bases are located on Australian soil. They'll say 10, because those are the 10 they know about.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's catch up with
How
some
many do you
comments.
know about,
Any more books before we move on to?
Well, I've got more, but I wanted to stagger them.
Okay, let's stagger. Let's get to some comments.
But wait, Greg, are you feeling okay? You're turning to the comments.
I'm turning to the comments.
You did get a bit of sun today.
I did take a booster shot of rum before this. So hello, Ariane. Hello, Fred.
Hey, Fred.
And I thought this conspiracy was older than that. Clockwork birds from the 19th century. Right? Aaron Facer. Hello, Aaron.
Well,
This particular one, that birds are instruments of the deep state. That came about as a result of the deep state, which came about when a lunatic achieved the presidency.
Yep. Jenny says we don't need sleep.
no.
When my son was little, he thought birds were spies.
Well, I'm not saying they're not spies, the little SOBs, but they are flesh and blood organisms.
Well, let me just say that the cats are fooled by birds. I put a bird entertainment system outside our front window. It just cost me a little bird seed every month, but I want to eat that. I want to eat that.
Oh.
Hello, Elaine from Kobo Dragon. Steve, are you planning on reading any more biographies this summer? At least 12, maybe 20.
Is that a joke? What on earth? Yes, I am planning on reading biographies. Yes.
Just Steve reads more than anyone. He really does.
I will be reading many, many biographies this summer. Not only every biography put out by a major publishing house in the United States in June, July, and August, but lots of secondhand stuff that I find at the Brattle Bookshop. That's my favorite thing to read. Absolutely.
You see, I love a good biography.
Yeah, me too.
The thing is, there are biography. I'm trying to put this, who are written by scholars who are writing for other scholars to prove how great their research is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those biographies are dishwater. Sorry.
They're a waste of time. They're a waste of time. As I say all the time, a boring book is a bad book.
Now, what about a biography that isn't exactly true? It's kind of like a novelization of the truth, like Nora.
I tend to love those.
Yeah, she wrote Miss Emily too, the one on Emily Dickinson.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, I tend to love those, especially if the author is upfront about what they're doing. Then I tend to love it. But I'm a big fan of all the variations of biography. Older ones that were written long before some vital piece of information came to light, I still want to read them. Absolutely. I am currently playing footsie with publishers. Don't know what's going on there. I'm currently playing a little weird back and forth game to get the new Reagan biography. I'd like to have it tomorrow instead of waiting.
Now, wasn't there a big Reagan biography a few years ago?
Yeah, there's one about every 4 years. There's a big Reagan biography about every 4 years. And the next big one that is serious, that isn't some partisan hack trying to make a point about, those were the days or whatnot, but a serious biography is coming out in September. I'd like to have it tomorrow. Instead of waiting until September like a common bridge troll.
Now you see, I'm kind of lazy. I tend to wait for the BookTube prize and for my biographies and see what I get. And sometimes you win the dice roll, and sometimes you get a real dud, and sometimes the real duds pass on to the next round. But that's a different argument.
Yeah, like Britney Spears. That would have been funny if you would have got.
She did not make it to the BookTube prize.
Yeah, I didn't read that.
I was really worried about, because there have been a couple people who've adored that.
Oh yeah, quite a few I know.
Only problem is, if you played a Britney Spears song, I couldn't recognize it.
Me neither. Same with Taylor Swift. We've talked about this.
What did you just say?
I would not be able to recognize a Britney Spears song.
Oops, I did it again.
Oh yeah, we know that.
Not only the greatest Britney Spears song, but the greatest music video of all time. That book had such potential. She will sell out auditoriums for the rest of her life. People love her not only for what her music reminds them of, but also because they were entirely behind her story. They think she's a hero. She will sell out auditoriums for the rest of her life. So why on earth was that biography careful? Why? Why was it careful? It could have been just her throwing firebombs at the wall. It could have been absolutely great. A memoir by Barbara Streisand, I can understand. She's 150 years old. She's trying to honor the memories of everybody she's ever known. She went to grade school with Moses. But Britney Spears, what possible reason could she have to pull punches? And yet the whole book is full of pulled punches.
So, just talking back, I'm pretty sure we'd hear Steve here in the UK if he'd read more biographies. Haha. I think he reads a lot of biographies.
I read a lot of biographies, yes, indeed.
William is saying, I'm reading Dragons on the Sea of Night.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
He used to be really big back, was that the 80s? With the ninja?
Ludlum books. Wrote Ludlum books, didn't he?
Ludlum-esque.
Yes, he did. And he also wrote his own books that were like Ludlum. International thriller.
Now, didn't he actually take over the Ludlum name?
For a while, yeah.
Okay.
He's a very good writer. But the Dragons on the Sea of Night is not Ludlum-esque thriller. So
that might be one of his fantasy. He has a few fantasy books. Any particular biography you're excited about? Well, we already mentioned the Reagan biography that you want.
Yeah, and I don't know whether or not to be excited about it. Greg, you mentioned that some biographies are written by boring scholars for boring scholars. But there's another group of biography that is just as much a waste of time, and that's a biography where, as I put it, somebody digs up a dead body in order to make it do what they want.
You're talking about you mentioned how great he was. He's the greatest president that ever lived.
He's the greatest president who ever lived because he agrees with me.
Mm-hmm.
And Reagan's a prime candidate for that. Him and Thatcher. That's all anybody ever does with them. And I don't want that to be true. Max Boot is the author of this biography. He's written a couple of books I really liked. I've read one that I damned. So,
well, I've read one book by Max Boot. Help me out. It was something to do with Vietnam.
Yeah. I strongly advise any of you who are wanting his book on the one about Vietnam that you get the paperback.
Does it have a name on the back?
It has an excellent blurb. Just a wonderful blurb on it.
Okay. Elaine does not know any Taylor Swift songs either. I have to be very careful not to diss Taylor Swift.
How many old people are in the chat? Am I surrounded by old geezers? Is that what's going on here?
Apparently so. All right. So Alan, what have you been reading?
Well, I read the The Most Dangerous Book. Reread that. It's on my Kindle. And
that's for our Ulysses group. That's
I've been listening.
And that was a good one. Actually, it was a very good history of how books.
Really good.
No matter what you think about Ulysses, it was a good history about.
Oh yeah. Oh no, absolutely. I don't need to like a book to like the books about it. Like, for instance, Anthony Burgess, the author of A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah,
Rejoice. Wrote a book called Rejoice. That's incredibly good.
I've read that. Yeah, I'd like to get that book again. Rejoice. And then I've just been preparing for that, listening to some Ulysses podcasts, going back, and then I reread Nora. That was good. What else? Trying Kind of reading this at nighttime. Billy Bob, they did it on tape. Kinky Friedman. I don't know. A friend of mine turned me on to this, said I'd like it. Let's see. Published 2012. I thought it'd be even earlier, but that's about it. I've been doing other things.
Okay. Let's get through it. The only thing I have to worry about from Canadians is stopping the world maple syrup. I thought that was Vermont had the world maple syrup supply. It's blurred by the Demon Smurf himself.
Max Boot? Are you insane? Oh, you must mean Britney Spears.
Now, she might be talking about you if it's blurred by the Demon Smurf, right? Did you say near the Demon Smurf?
No.
Jack Edwards.
Jack Edwards is the Demon Smurf.
No.
And everything I predicted about him 6 years ago is coming true. He is hosting major literary awards.
Okay, so Elaine says 60 is not old.
60 is incredibly old.
I agree with Elaine.
I'm turning 60 this year, and
Pick out a coffin and crawl right in.
Yeah. The book is the 5th of his Sunset Warrior. Okay, I have his first 3 Sunset Warriors on my shelf in paperback that I've never gotten around to.
They're really good. I said it at the time, a long time ago, 20 years ago. I said, you ought to write this and not anything else. You ought to write this.
I read his Ninja book, and I thought that was okay.
Yeah, Ninja was okay. Gian was okay. But he could have written Game of Thrones. And it would not only have been really, really good, but he'd be a squintillionaire by now. So, I don't know what he was thinking. Still don't. I don't get it. It is such the epic fantasy series, the open-ended epic fantasy series, a la Robert Jordan, is a license to print money if you do a good job at it. Hell, you don't even need to do a good job at it, but if you do a good job at it, it's a license to print money. I don't know, with a start like he had with Sunset Warrior, I don't know why he didn't just keep doing it.
Well, I needed a good event that has books for that to get me kickstarted.
Yeah, it won't be Rocket Summer. They're too late for Rocket Summer.
They're too late, and that's science fiction. It's not fantasy. So, Steve, gentlemen, what e-readers do you currently use? I'm eyeing a Kindle Fire Max 11. Any hands on with that model?
Somebody sent me one. It's fantastic. Wow. Just incredible. The pickup, the speed, the sharpness of the screen. Oh my God, the sharpness of the screen is every bit as good as an iPad. The machine itself is every bit as good as an iPad. One of my viewers sent me not only the Max 11, but the keyboard case. And it's incredible. It's absolutely a complete. There's nothing I can't do on that machine that I have to shift to a MacBook. Just amazing, just amazing. But what about the two of you? Are you? I can't remember if you are Greg, you use an e-reader.
I use the Kindle. This is my Kindle Scribe. I have a Kindle Paperwhite as well for when I travel, but this is my home Kindle. I do it because I just love the big screen. Forget it might have been used that you can get an actual book page on this. Yeah, and it's just like reading.
Think that you would care about such a thing because we all look at phones until you do it, and then you realize, this does make a difference.
It really is a wonderful experience.
Yeah, and the Scribe has that nice thick bezel, so you have something to hold on to.
You do.
It's my Kindle Fire.
Oh, look at that! That's one
ancient.
Is that?
Ancient, huh?
Which one is that? Is it an older Kindle Fire?
Yeah. I don't even know.
Ooh.
Still works.
That reminds me, Alan, I said I have a very, very old Kindle e-ink reader from like 10 years ago that I'm going to deactivate and send your way just to see if it works for you.
Okay, yeah, great.
But I love it.
4 years and Greg is still doing this. He sent me a piece of old tech.
I did. I have a lot of old tech. But something.
You sent me this laptop you're watching this on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is now that my wife is officially retired, that I really have to be more cautious about all the tech that I purchase. And I just can't go, that looks really good because I'm looking at my accounts with this has got to last till I'm 85 or 90.
Oh.
May I take a moment to get a little bit sappy?
Sure.
This little corner of BookTube is full of people saying, "Oh, so and so just sent me a box of books, a piece of tech, some food."
Oh yeah.
Full of that. It's
It
not
is.
just a couple of channels. It's lots of channels. We give things to each other. How
Well,
awesome!
send me this.
Mhm.
Things all
Well,
the time.
well, one of the things is I have a book, and I will tell you I got to do a video on it. There was YouTube serves up random videos in your feed. This BookTube video, and it's a young woman in her 20s. She's very pretty, and she has like 1 million subscribers, and she gets like 100,000 views on her videos. And I'm thinking, well, why don't I see if I can emulate what she does? And one of the things she does is, well, I know I can't be young and pretty, but she asks people to recommend books to her, and then she reads them. And so my idea was, I'm going to go to Costco, and I'm going to buy a book outside of my comfort zone that I would not normally read. And it's a fantasy, and I found out it was considered a new adult fantasy. It's not quite young adult, but it's new adult.
Fourth Wing. No.
It's right in there with the Fourth Wing type of fantasy. And I got maybe 200 pages in and go, this is a mistake.
IDNF.
It's a bad mistake. So I'm gonna do the video, and I'm gonna announce this book is up for anyone who leaves a comment saying, "Do you want this book?" And if you want it, I'll send it your way. If no one wants it, it goes to a little free library.
And are you gonna do this as a thing?
I had originally thought it'd be a nice little series of videos to do, but after trying to read this book, I'm saying,
oh,
maybe no. Which is a good segue, because I was just so disappointed. I decided to go back to my banned books project and read an old time banned book, because I've been trying to read some of the modern banned books, and to put it politely, they're not my demographic and not my subjects. So I say I do not want to trash a book from a marginalized group of people, even if I don't personally like it. I don't consider that a good thing to do.
Well, there we part ways.
You do? You say if the book's not good.
If the book's not good and you don't trash it because the author is from a marginalized community, you are being about as racist as you can be. This is an even playing field. If you start saying, oh, well, I'm grading you on a curve because whatever, your skin color, your ethnic background, I don't know. Off of Twitter, I don't know of any author from a marginalized background who would want that kind of treatment.
Yeah.
On Twitter, they all want it. On Twitter, they want to free ride it.
Well, it's not that I'm trashing it. I'm just not reviewing it. The better idea is just let them have their own little corner and just don't read them.
But if an old white guy wrote a terrible book, you'd give us a choice 15 minutes of vitriol on your channel. So that's a double standard.
Vitriol.
It is a bit of a double. You're right. It is a bit of a double standard.
Well, aren't double standards bad? Aren't they bad?
Yeah, they are. But, see, my thing is I don't want to give Moms for Liberty any ammunition to start banning books.
Moms for Liberty, yeah.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine how much fun it would be if Moms for Liberty discovered BookTube? Oh, my God. I can't even imagine it. Can you imagine if we found this conclave of people all talking with each other, disagreeing and agreeing with each other, sending each other stuff? Oh, my God, they'd have a conniption fit.
They would. So the banned book, it's a reread for me, was A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. And I knew at least I would enjoy that book. Now, Steve, I'm not sure you're a Hemingway fan, are you?
No. No. I would enjoy A Farewell to Arms, too, if there were anything in it that were any good. But there isn't. I suppose if you made a special paperback with beagles on the cover, maybe. Otherwise, no. No.
Well, it was definitely better than the new adult fantasy.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, Steve, what did you think of this book?
Oh, I loved it.
Yes.
Are you reading it for the first time?
No, I have 3 copies of it currently. A friend just gave me 2 copies over the weekend, but it's one of my favorite. Not one of my all-time or anything, but
Not
I've
all
read
time
it
favorite,
3
no, but
times
it's
and I've given it away as presents.
oh man, it's so good. It's
Greg and
just
Jason Harrigan hate it
I was going to read it from March of the Mammoths, you know,
because we buddy read
everyone
it.
suggested, and I got through about 100 pages, and I was looking at my Kindle, and there's all these other books that were calling to me, and it says no.
Greg goes, "Is the rest the same as this?" And I said, "Pretty much."
now there were a couple of books that came out in that same rough time period. Shantaram was one of them. Matterhorn was another that just blew me away. Just amazing.
Matterhorn I liked.
But also books that came out where I read them and thought, well, this is blowing me away. This is absolutely fantastic. But we're never going to hear from you again. And usually that ends up being mostly true. I think that the Shantaram author wrote another book, but
Yeah, he did. I have it. The Mountain Shadow.
yeah.
It's another big book.
And I said the same thing about City on Fire by Garth Rice-Kalberg, but he has written another book. So I'm wrong. Eventually, these people have mortgages to pay, so they have to go back and write again.
So I was doing that, and I've been doing some horror mayhem books.
Mhm.
You know, nothing that comes out and says this is the best horror book that I've read in ages, but
You know, I've noticed that in our little neighborhood of BookTube. People making videos, I love it. I watch them all, people talking about what they're reading, but I've noticed that in the last few months, and I mean solid months, almost nobody for almost any event in almost any genre has held up a book and said, this blew me away. I get the impression that 2024 is not a particularly good reading year so far for a lot of people.
well, I discount rereads because rereads
Yeah.
you tend to go back to some really good ones.
Right.
But
I mean, for stuff that people are encountering for the first time, whether it's a new release or an older book, I'm not seeing people jumping out of their seat.
Yeah,
for-
I remember the first time I read Shantaram because it really surprised me. And you know, when you read it real fast, it's a sign
Right.
of a great book. You can, yeah.
Yeah, I read in Publishers Weekly, I read all the advanced stuff about Shantaram, and a publishing rep came to the bookstore where I worked and said, this is the real deal. You're it's going to take hand selling because it's really big and it's not an immediate thing, but I'm willing to give you a copy if you'll give it a try.
so Steve, the one that came closest was a novel from 1937, published by NYRB Classics under the Rim of Morning collection by William Sloane. Do you know the book I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That was actually pretty good. I mean, the only issue I had with that book is that he was probably breaking ground in 1937. And by 2024, I look at they described a pile of mathematic papers on his desk. Right. I said, well, if he did that, that means this happened.
Right.
Well, when someone in 1937 is going to be, I mean, I can't truly fault a book that way, but you still wind up not loving it.
You can't fault a book, but you can't not see it.
Right.
It's the same thing with science fiction. You read a science fiction novel from 1937 talking about cities on Mars, and all of a sudden you just hit something. You go, oh, okay, well, I understand where you're coming from. I understand why you're writing this. There aren't any cities on Mars. So, I mean, you didn't know that then, but we know it now. Or you'll read a novel in 1940 about somebody who's come up with a magical way to duplicate a person, and the writer in 1940 is talking about cellular structures and whatnot, but they don't know about cloning, and I do. So
you're right. But no, so we'll see. I mean, I am really waiting for that book to really blow me out of the water. That really love. Now, this has been a number of years. You might hate this book. I don't know. What do you think about 4321 by Paul Auster?
I liked parts of it. I keep meaning to go back to it. There was a big fat paperback of it at the Brattle a little while ago, and I passed on it. And it was gone in a day. So I would probably revisit that book. I think it's way too long, way longer than it needs to be.
Is that the one about NYC and that?
Well, this is the gimmick of this one is contrasting viewpoints of the same story, much like An Instance of the Finger Post. But I believe its genesis what had nothing to do with narrative. Paul Auster always used to pull this shtick out of his butt that he didn't care about the world, that, you know, I'm a little too gruff for that. I go off in my study and I write. But I don't believe, when it comes to 4321, I don't believe it for a minute. I think 4321 is born of 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami.
Hmm.
There was born of that book. But I mean to reread it.
Well, when it was a new book, I was listening. There was an old podcast that was really great called Bookworm by Michael Silverblatt, and he interviewed Paul Auster for this. And Paul Auster read a scene from that book about two teenagers conniving to have sex for the first time in an apartment their parents are out of, and they're getting in. They get into the apartment and they turn on the radio, and it's 11:23:63.
Don't you hate it when that happens?
It hasn't happened to me, but
The ultimate mood killer.
it is. But no, that's the last time I really liked a book. So let's go through Mystery Mayhem. We always have a lot of maple syrup. You get one day, you get old one day, Steve. You can't stay 28 forever. Who says you can't stay 28 forever?
Math is difficult.
Steve, do your eyes get tired from reading an LCD screen like the Kindle Fire?
No, I don't discount it. I've talked to too many people where that kind of eye strain is real, but it just doesn't happen to me.
And on the Paperwhite or the ink, that shouldn't happen to anyone. Although
right.
I've heard,
with e-ink, it's like reading a page.
well, I've heard Sean D. Steadfast says the flipping of the pages, you get that, and it bothers him a lot. But wait a second, I missed this. All on the panel. What are your thoughts on posting on Amazon wishlist on your channel for people to buy books if they choose to do so?
That's a good idea, I think.
I think it's wonderful. Of course,
Sure.
I think it's wonderful. How much better that than someone sending a book blind?
I have my issues. I have been sent books by booktubers before, and I really appreciate it. But my only thing is that there are some booktubers out there who cannot afford books.
Right.
And
there's nothing coercive about posting a wish list.
No, it's not. But part of me says, help them out before you help me out. Just because.
Oh, yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But
Just
the thing is, a lot of the booktubers who absolutely can't afford books won't advertise that fact.
That's true.
And
I might do it.
Wish list, I believe that Amazon allows you to buy a book from someone's wish list and have it sent to them anonymous. I believe that's possible.
Yeah.
And a lot of viewers on our channels, they tune into our regular videos, and their number one thought when that video is over is, I owe this person something. This is one of the highlights of my day. I owe them something. A lot of those people they don't want to go through the bother of trying to contact the person and hash out what it is, or maybe be told no. They don't want to do any of that. So,
yeah.
And Hannah, I usually use a Paperwhite from a few years ago, but I do still occasionally use my Kindle from ages ago with the real little keyboard. It only works now if it's plugged in, but I still love it.
Yeah.
I had the original Kindle.
But how many people are now looking a little askance at their Kindles thanks to Ollie and his one-man war on Kindle? How many people are changing their minds? How many people dusted off their Kobo?
Well, I'm sorry. I disagree with Ollie. I mean, I understand. Like, Jeff Bezos absolutely has way more money than any one human being ever should be allowed to have, but that's our system. And his description of the Kindle being an advertising book machine is a little exaggerated. If you set your home screen right, you open up and you just see a list of your books. It's there, but it's not that in your face as he's making out to be.
Right. Well, no, in his last couple of videos on the subject, he's been pretty clear that what he's talking about is himself, his own reaction to this.
Mm-hmm.
And also in his latest video on the subject, I think he made it pretty clear that it's not really a question for him of configuring your home screen. It's a question of corporate intent. Whether he configures his home screen or not, he knows that Amazon doesn't care about him as a reader. They just want to sell him stuff. And he doesn't get that impression with Rakuten Kobo. 'Cause he knows that Amazon doesn't care about him as a reader. They just want to sell him stuff. And he doesn't get that impression with Rakuten Kobo. 'Cause he knows that Amazon doesn't care about him as a reader. They just want to sell him stuff. And he doesn't get that impression with Rakuten Kobo. And I don't either. You have to look around on your Kobo to buy something.
Well, my only problem with the Kobo is I don't want to get invested in another store system where if I buy a book on a Kobo, I have to read on my Kobo. If I write it,
right.
Now he's all in favor of stripping DRM, which he says is legal in England.
Right.
No, it's not legal in the United States.
Not legal in the United States. And as you put it in your video on the subject, are you going to get prosecuted for it? Probably not. Are you guilty of a crime? Yes, you are.
And you have no excuse if they decide to do it.
Let's just be clear about that. I thought that was really well done in that video of yours, because you weren't casting any judgment. You were just saying, let's look at the reality here.
Yeah.
It's that kind of cold, objective view of reality that shores up my belief that you are actually a retired government spook.
My wife is the government. She's the one that worked for the government.
That's
she
exactly
told me.
what Smiley says. He says the same thing. Oh, you want my wife?
She said she worked for GSA for 33 years. How do I know she worked for GSA? If you work for the CIA, you're going to say, I work for GSA.
You should check for boudoir for mechanical birds.
Yeah.
Actually, I have listened in to some of her work conversations, unless they're really highly jargonistic. And you're saying this contract for guards is really assassinate these people over in this country. She worked for GSA.
There's your novel, Greg. There's your novel right there. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah, Jim's coming back to Portland pretty soon.
I thought that Paperwhite reigned supreme, but then Ollie started going on about Kobo.
I will have to be convinced. I will have to be convinced. So Elaine just finished 12 of 24 banned books, but taking a break for Rocket Summer and Book Trek.
And June on the Range.
And June. Well, is she doing June on the Range?
I presume. Who's not going to do?
I was going to do June on the Range. I'm just going to read the 2 books. And then I did the 2 books, and then someone else said, let's read this other book. I said, okay. Yeah. And then another book came up, said, all right, that's sort of I'll read that. I said, okay, I'm reading a lot of Westerns next month.
And good thing it is, too. They're so enjoyable.
Oh, wait a second. Hannah's comment. Moms for Liberty and Moms for Literacy have absolutely no overlap in their membership. Maybe. I was about to make a comment about the Moms for Liberty woman who was in a love triangle with another woman.
Oh.
You can't make that stuff up. Jim hates to have and have not a while back. Absolutely. Brian from Bookish thinks that's a very flawed novel, too.
Mm-hmm. I like the movie. I like Bogart. William Faulkner wrote the screenplay.
I've given 9 out of 10 reviews for 2 books in December and January. Oh, I've given 9 out of 10. Okay. Ariana, Amazon wishlist is great for booktubers. I wonder if all the Kobo color lovers will change their minds when we inevitably get the color Kindle.
And you know what the key difference will be. You can zero in on it when you watch color Kobo reviews. They all sing its praises, but they all say one thing the same, which is that the color is gray. It's muted.
Right.
It isn't crisp. It isn't sharp like a Kindle.
And you think Amazon's holding out until they can get that crispness?
6 years ago, people in the know in the e-reading community told me beyond any shadow of a doubt, complete surety, that color e-ink was technologically impossible. So color e-ink that's as sharp as your Fire tablet is certainly no more than 2 years away.
Well, I forgot who said that. It's the way e-ink works. You have pixels on your screen, and you have it on off. Just like binary, it's on off, and that gives it its clarity. But you can't tell it on and off what color to be. So you have this layer on top that interprets it.
Right. But that layer on top can be made smarter. I can't do it, and you can't do it, but some kid in Osaka probably is already patenting the way to do it. No, that's the next step. That's what Kindle will do next, is that their color Kindle will be as bright and sharp and crisp as their Fire tablet, only e-ink.
So you're not with the tech videos that say end of 24, 25 for the color Kindle.
Well, they might do one at the beginning that has that kind of murky film to it. I've seen 1 million reviews of the color Kobo, including Ollie's. And sure, it's color, but it's a washed out TV from the 1970s. I already had one of those, so I wouldn't. That's the next step. The next step is for the color to be sharper and brighter.
And I'm gonna say this is when you're reading books, how often do you really need color?
Yeah.
Now there are some books, nonfiction, that have color prints, especially like art reproduction books or something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, the market for this is being driven by Asia and by manga.
Okay.
So no, for books, no, you don't need it at all.
So it's just a big toy to play with. I know myself. If both my wife and I were working and had our my computer programming job and her government job, I would have ordered it. Just because it'd be a new toy to have, even if it didn't become my main reader. Well, I'm a fan of Kobo and prefer reading on Kobo. I cannot deny that Amazon offers more specials and more independent authors.
Yes, I went looking today for websites that send you daily deals for the Kobo, and they are far fewer than for the Kindle. Far fewer. That's what I would miss the most. If I switched to Kobo, I would lose out on those authors. I get free ebooks every day from those daily deal things, and read a lot of them. Not a lot of them are all that good, but I keep hoping. I keep hoping that I'll come across something great. But
just before the show, I was looking through my Kindle list, and there's a book for 99 cents. Small publisher. It's not available from my local library. Will I ever read that book?
You have a problem. You have a real problem.
I do.
With Kindle crack.
That's what I got. Kindle, it is.
Just repeat after me. No money. That's still going to get you 6 books a day. Just no money. If the choice is to pay money for 6 books a day that you're not going to read, or pay no money for 6 books a day that you're not going to read.
Now I have a book that Steve liked and I liked and Greg hasn't read. We're gonna read. You like this, didn't you, Steve?
I did. I loved it.
Yeah, this another example of a book that came out that blew me out of the water. I remember when it came out, and I've had different editions of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that book or Shantaram. Where is the equivalent of that so far in 2024? That's what I'm talking about. There hasn't been that yet. I mean, we're only halfway through, and the freight of the publishing industry is for the autumn, so it could happen. But
well, Steve, I was a BookTube Judge Prize for fiction this round, and I read my 6 books. 3, I think, were duds. 1, I thought was going to be a dud, but after reading the other duds, it's sort of like maybe that's just a ma book. Maybe it's better than I thought. And 2 were okay.
But the BookTube Prize is for last year's books, right?
Yes, for 2023. And honestly, I have not seen anything in 2024 that's screaming at me, I want to read this right away.
Perhaps we might find some clues if we read 25 more comments.
What about
we don't have 25 more comments, but okay, let's get on.
Copperhead. How about Demon Copperhead? That was one I wanted.
I have a feeling that I would be disappointed with Demon Copperhead. I can't describe why I think so. And there's a comment coming up that I'll get to for a book that I think I will be disappointed with.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say why I think I'm going to be disappointed with it. So yeah, it says no June on the range for her. She likes old sci-fi. Jess, not a fan of e-readers. I prefer holding physical books.
Yeah, me too.
You know something? Just wait till you hit that 6.0 and your eyes get tired at night.
Well, just like me, she's already.
Maybe because I don't really wear glasses in real, outside anything. One booktuber mentioned you don't buy ebooks, but you buy the access to the ebooks. The seller can anytime withdraw access, and God forbid something would happen to the website. Technically true, but it's especially with Amazon.
Another point that you made in your video was technically it's true, but it's not going to happen.
Well, Amazon could go out of business theoretically. Theoretically, Amazon could go out of business. And now, one other big e-reader channel says he actually thinks that Amazon is going to ditch the Kindle. I don't really believe that, but
chance.
Didn't you lose a lot of books when Greg, when you couldn't get them back? Something happened, or
that's someone else.
Okay.
Someone else had an Amazon account, and they lost their password, and they could not verify the account. Yeah. And Amazon, I'm sorry, did the right thing and did not give him access.
And I had with the old Barnes & Noble Nook app, I had 4,000 books on one of those, and Barnes & Noble pushed through an update to the Nook app, and I saw the notification for an update, and there was no mention anywhere in the update that it would wipe out your library, but it did.
Oh,
it wiped out all side-loaded content, and all my library was side-loaded.
Oh, all side-loaded. Oh.
It was all gone.
Well, theoretically, they don't like side-loaded content anyway.
Yeah, but
Jenny, I'm not that sentimental with physical books. Is probably why I love my Kindle.
That's I'm in that part. That's me.
I'm not sentimental for just books I like to read. There are some old paperbacks that I absolutely love. The vintage paperbacks that you cannot reproduce. Can I put one out here? I don't know if I have one available, but these old paperbacks, you just can't reproduce these covers that were gaudy, and you have cigarette ads and
yeah.
All right. So Jenny, Greg, have you tried any graphic novels or manga on your Scribe? I'm hoping to get one soon, and I don't want to know if I'll have to get rid of any on e-reader rather than having to do so read physically.
Wait, wasn't Jenny Parks the one who was contemplating a Kindle Fire Max 11?
I think that was someone else.
Oh, okay.
I have not read any manga or on my Kindle. When I do read those, I just read them in physical copy.
Just get the Kindle Fire Max 11. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. It has all sorts of controls in the settings to soften the impact of the LED screen on your eyes.
Okay, book chat with Pack. I was wowed by Everett James. Yeah. This is the one I've heard people talk about it, and I think he's pushing modern issues too much in the book.
Very much so. That's why it didn't wow me. I'm hoping that a reread it wows me in a reread, but
that just might. I mean, I have not read it. I said, oh,
first time I read it,
21st century.
Right. I read it when I read it the first time. I thought this is beautifully written, and you're evoking the world of Huck Finn wonderfully as a kind of visual description. And every time we get inside the mind of James, he sounds like a Rutgers undergraduate, and he shouldn't.
No.
If you want to indulge in that kind of space fantasy, then. But I every time I underestimate this author on a reread, I'm always wrong.
Okay. Well, as I said, I have to read The Trees. That's my first thing with the J. Not ever. I want to read The Trees and see what I think.
No, you got to read Erasure.
Which one?
Erasure.
Erasure?
Yes, that's the one you have to read if you're going to read anything.
Okay. Book chat with Pat. Going back to this. Have you read Finn by John Clinch?
I'm getting asked a "Have you read?" question on your stream.
No, he has, Greg. I have not.
Well, okay. I should say, what did you think about Finn by John Clinch?
You should say that, but you didn't.
I did.
I liked it, old Steve.
I liked it.
Well, that's fair enough.
It's fair enough.
Finn. Now, Finn was about his father, right?
It was about Huckleberry Finn's father.
Yeah, the alcoholic guy who left him.
Book chat with Pat. Can you read it without having read Huck Finn?
Yeah, it bears almost no resemblance to Huck Finn. Almost no connection.
Jenny, yes, you can, but I think it would be helpful to know Huck Finn. Everett said he'd like to think he was in dialogue with Mark Twain.
Yeah, I love Huck Finn. I have not one but two copies of it. I have like a Norton Critical Edition, old one I found.
Jim will stick to my physical books. Same Mystery Mayhem. I can't do e-readers. Hello, Constant Campbell.
Constance.
I can't do tablets. I have zero self-control. Would end up playing apps or watching the video.
Jeez.
Or you could generate self-control. You could develop self-control.
Yeah, I'd end up playing cards and poke around it anyway, too.
Or you could stop yourself from doing that.
Self-control is a hard thing.
Apparently, it died in the 20th century.
I've tried Ariane, not a fan. Constance, did you see American Fiction?
I did not.
I guess she's asking. I have not seen American Fiction.
I did. I liked it.
Yeah, I heard it's an excellent movie.
I guess that's a new movie that's just come out.
Yeah, well, no, it's been out for a while, but
it's an adaptation of the novel Erasure, which you should read.
Okay. Steve, what do you think is the toughest author to read and why?
Good question.
Probably Stephen King because of how bad he is. It's hard to get through chapter by chapter when you're compulsively vomiting onto the page. You constantly have to wipe it off. Probably that.
Okay.
Now, well, let's take it in a slight.
Yeah, because Stephen King is one of Jess's favorite authors.
Let's take it in a slightly different direction. What is a difficult author to read that's actually worth reading? Or is that?
Well, I do depend on what you mean by difficult. An author who's trying to thwart you as a reader is a bad author. If we're talking about linguistic gymnastics and maybe, narrative complexity, you could read something like Against the Day by Thomas Pynchon. That's a brain cracker of a book. But I don't know that I would agree with difficult. You're still reading it. You still know that you're in the presence of a terrific writer. Maybe that would be a close.
Maybe. Now, one of the books in that category that I tried to read was House of Leaves by Daniel Levsky.
House of Leaves is the opposite of what I'm talking about. House of Leaves is a book where the author is trying to make it hard. Oh, look at that. 2 copies of Against the Day. Oh, my God.
I was going through House of Leaves.
Having 2 copies of every book he owns.
When I tried House of Leaves.
You lost your volume.
I left one in Toledo, Ohio, and like 3 years later, my girlfriend sent it back. She's still sending boxes of books back. But yeah, we're threatening to reread that too, maybe next year or
maybe. But no, I was trying to tell Steve about my issue with House of Leaves. I was in a group reading it. Some very smart people in that group. Oh, hold on, wait a second. What have I done? And they say there's a hidden message in all the misspellings of the book.
Yes.
And they're going through, and I said, look, I'm a terrible speller to begin with. I'm not going to see most misspellings. So therefore, you've automatically eliminated me from a part of the book. It's like when authors write in foreign languages, they have a paragraph in foreign language and don't translate it. If you don't know the language, you got to either get a translator. Google is easy, but.
Right. Well, or you could long press on your Kindle. But when an author lapses into a foreign language for a few sentences, it is a foreign language. It's a language that millions of people know. When an author pulls a crap trick, keyed to misspellings and also page numbers. Were you clever enough to get it? Did you get it? Huh? Give me your money. Forget about it. Just get out of town. You have any idea how many authors just want to tell you great stories? That I'm going to waste time with you. The people who love books that do that kind of crap are the people who've convinced themselves that they are bored with straightforward reading. And that's insane. That's absolutely insane.
It's a great point.
I had a kid who was 28 years old, literally 28 years old, about 30 years ago. I brought this up in connection with a book that I'm not even going to bother mentioning the author. Pulled this kind of stupid, Theseus and the Labyrinth crap in his novel, and this kid was over the moon about it. And I said, why are you bothering with a book that is just about playing tricks on you and seeing if you can figure it out? He said, well, I've read everything else. I practically slapped him. I stared at him for probably a solid minute in silence. And then I just said, have you read any Henry James? No. Any Edith Wharton? No. Any Huck Finn that you weren't forced to read in school? No. Any Dostoevsky that you weren't forced to read in school? No. No. Any ancient Japanese authors? No. No. Anything from ancient Greece and Rome? No. No. Yeah, but I've read everything.
A little short.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can't read everything by all those subjects. I mean, impossible. I mean, maybe you could, Steve, but I couldn't. William, I often mistake audiobooks for radio dramatizations. I'm not sure I do. I thought Finn was interesting, but I don't think it was really in dialogue with Mark Twain, as P.E. says he was.
I'm totally on the same page as Hannah. I respect this guy like crazy, but saying that he felt like he was in dialogue with Mark Twain, no. I don't know who you think you were talking to, but it wasn't Mark Twain.
Mark Twain is how do I put it politely? Dead.
Well, I'm talking just on an artistic level. Twain would have recognized the presence of another megawatt brain, but that would have been it. There wouldn't have been any dialogue.
I don't know. I am absolutely sure that James will be on the BookTube prize list for fiction next year. And I even going to say I predict we'll make it to the final round. And I've never read the book. Took me long enough to use my Kindle, but more often that I go to my phone. I really don't like reading on my phone. It's just the screen's too small for me, even though this is like a huge phone.
I do sometimes if I'm on a train or don't have my.
It's okay for short-term reading, for like emails and so forth, but it's hard to.
Yeah, that's what I always tell myself when I've packed the bag and I'm ready to go out for morning errands, and I know that the errands are going to take me to the Brattle bookshop. I do not pack a book since I'm going to need every inch of bag space for the books that I get at the Brattle. So that little quick subway ride, that is when I'll read on my phone. My phone has 1,000 books on it, and it's with me anyway. So it isn't taking up any extra room in the bag. So, but that's it. That's the only time I do.
Elaine, silence hits the room.
Huh.
Joyce can be difficult.
Yeah, crappy prose is difficult.
Steve, I keep forgetting how much you love Stephen King and his amazing storytelling. Well,
I like 11/23/63.
Was that 20-year-old kid the salty seafarer Mark Richardson?
No, I did not know Mark when he was younger. Not at all. I feel certain that we encountered each other because he was stationed in Boston. I feel certain that we did. We were probably at the Brattle at the same time. Maybe he came into my bookstore. I feel certain of that. And to put it, as I've said many times before, to put it mildly, when we were both on the open ocean in ages past, his kind of vessel would have been the last kind of vessel that the captains of my kind of vessel would want to see coming. Mark was always on the open ocean as law enforcement.
No.
You don't want a cutter coming up alongside you and saying, "What's in the hold?" You don't want that. None of my captains ever did. So So no, it was not a salty young seafarer, Mark.
Well, in one of my previous videos, I think it was the Kindle, I was talking about working at Borders and Crown Books. I had a comment from Medium John Silver. He says, I shopped at those bookstores at that time. So odds are...
I'd be curious to know how many people watch me on BookTube who were probably customers of mine at my old bookstore. So that was a long time. That was 25 years every day, 9 to 5. That was a long time.
I am sure that he is not the first person who shopped in those stores that have watched my video. Will they remember me because I had a full head of hair back then, and I may not be recognizable? But that's the whole idea, is like we're always passing people throughout life and don't recognize it. I was talking about Finn, not James. More on James for me in a future video.
Yo.
Okay, we're caught up with comments. We're doing good.
Shall I do a few more books?
Sure.
Yeah.
I also read this, Refiner's Fire by Donna Leone, the next Venice mystery of hers, Inspector Brunetti. She has a series of mysteries set in present-day Venice. They're wonderful. This is coming down the pipe. It's not nearby, but the minute I got it, I read it because I love this whole series.
Okay, you want to hear a coincidence? I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off. Medium John Silver.
There you go.
And when you came on, I just mentioned your name.
Yes, you just mentioned his name.
Minutes ago.
What's the coincidence?
That he just popped on.
Yeah.
Now, maybe he was watching and heard me mention his name, or maybe he just popped on and said hello after I mentioned his name.
And then another book that I read because I just can't wait for June on the Range to start was this, The Road to Laramie, by an author going under the name of Peter Field. I was reading this thing and I was thinking, boy, oh boy. I mean, it's cheesy and it's one-dimensional cardstock characters, but every time, 5 times in this book, the plot swerves into an action scene. And action scenes are really tough to write. Really good authors sometimes don't do them well at all. And his are all fantastic. And not only were they fantastic, but they struck, I swear to God, when I was reading this, when I would get to the action scenes, I would constantly think, these aren't just really good, they're really pulpy. They read like the pulps. And then I looked him up. This is a pen name, and the guy who wrote under this pen name also wrote Doc Savage novels. So they are pulpy action.
Oh God, what's his name? I just read it. I just read a short novella by him.
I don't remember this guy's name. A whole bunch of people wrote Doc Savage novels. No. I don't remember what his actual name was, but The Road to Laramie was terrific. I loved it. So I'm pre-gaming for June on the Range. And then the last book that I'll mention here, this is Matthew Taylor's book, The Violent Ticket by Forrest, which is about New Apostolic Reformation. It's about Seven Mountains Dominionism. It's about this massive, extremely coordinated move in America's fundamentalist circles to take over the government. With preachers, just preachers, hours and hours and hours of preachers videotaped preaching from the pulpit, which is against the law. You're not going to go to jail for it, but you should lose your tax exempt status.
You're right.
And none of them ever do. They're up on their podium saying, Greg Locke, pounding.
Oh my God, that man gives me heartburn.
Yeah. He stands at his podium and says, if you're a Democrat, you're not welcome in this church. If you're a Democrat, you can't be a real Christian.
Huh. Yeah.
And he doesn't lose his tax exempt status. He should lose it the next day.
And what's interesting about Greg Locke, there's another guy who gets his name is Edward Travers or something like that. He has a big bushy, he has a big beard, mostly bald on top. He's from Nova Scotia or Scotland, but he is the exact opposite of a Christian as Greg Locke. He says everyone who wants to join my church in this congregation is welcome, no matter who you are.
Sounds like the Pope.
Well, the thing is, he may have actually read the Bible. He may have read it. With Greg Locke, I have my doubts.
Well, the title of this book is partially taken from Greg Locke's most infamous sermon, where he said that the Bible says we can take it by force.
Oh.
Meaning the government. Meaning the government of the United States. Seven Mountains Dominionism knows exactly what it wants. It wants control of government, schools, the military, entertainment. 7 of those nodes. It wants all 7 of those nodes to control. Where if you are not Christian, if you are not fundamentalist Christian, then, well, you name it. We've all read books about 1930s Germany. If you're not a fundamentalist Christian, you don't get to walk on the sidewalk. You have to walk in the gutter. Can't use public transportation. You can't have any pets. Don't get cable. Can't have the internet. That's what they want. And by not fundamentalist Christian, they mean literally anyone. So Catholics are out, but also atheists are out. You can't just privately say, well, I'll go along with you, but in my heart, I don't believe. No.
But how would they know? I mean, the thing is, how would they know if someone didn't believe them and that is biding their time?
Well, they might not know what's in your heart, but they could definitely know whether or not you go to daily church service. And whether or not you have a Bible, and whether or not you send your kids to the right school, elementary school, high school, and college. They could definitely know all of that. Because keep in mind, everyone is being watched by mechanical birds.
Of course.
I don't know.
Birds.
Can you imagine that? I mean,
why would they care? I mean, are they that much of true believers, or are they thinking that if we make everyone join our church, we get to charge them tithings and get really, really rich?
Well, the money is, of course, an attitude, but the New Apostolic Reformation and Seven Mountains Dominionism view anyone who's not a fundamentalist Christian as an agent of Satan. So I'm not willing to say that they don't have an actual element of belief. It's just horrifying belief. And this book, Matt Taylor he's a really, really good writer, and he makes the case about as clear as it can be. It's plain in plain view. You can buy Project 2025 and read that section of what
you can. And if you give me 1 second, what's the name of this one again?
The violent will take it by force.
The what will take it by force?
The violent take it by force.
Violent will take it by force.
Matthew Taylor. Well, the point that he makes in his book, I think most effectively, is that most people in America simply have no conception of how close this is. They think it's something in a science fiction novel or The Handmaid's Tale, when that is absolutely not true. That is absolutely not true.
scary.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, because I know I would be on their list of people they don't like.
Oh, yeah. You absolutely would be. Yeah. Most people that I know would be on their list in one way or another. It's most people that I know do something that they consider to be an absolute mortal sin.
An abomination.
An abomination, right? Do you ever have carnal relations with another man?
Think of a few, yeah, more than a few.
Do you ever take recreational drugs? Have you ever skipped a church service?
Yeah, skip one.
You name it. And also, which is made pretty clear in this book, and also made pretty clear in Project 2025 in the small print. Do you have any minority friends? You're not allowed to have any minority friends.
Oh,
they're all going to go anyway. You don't really want to go with them, do you?
So
you don't want to go with them, do you?
When I was having my lunch with my neighbors today, there was at least one retired Jewish couple.
Yeah.
So I can't. Now the thing is, I might be Jewish in their law too, because my father was Jewish.
No.
Depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
What?
Your mother.
My mother was not Jewish.
No, then you're not
Jewish.
No, according to the Jews, I'm not Jewish.
Right.
Yes. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. According to the fascists, you are.
According to the fascists, I am.
According to the fascists, if they adopt the playbook of 1930s Germany, and so far they have just explicitly adopted that playbook, then the only way you would get out is if one of your grandparents was Jewish. If one of your grandparents was Jewish, but only one, you could maybe apply for an exemption of the law. But otherwise, no.
No, my father was. So that's like I'm out.
And all of this reading that we all do? Oh, no. One book.
One book.
One book.
Oh yeah.
And I guess my skeptic's copy of the Bible does not count.
Do you have the Skeptic's Bible? Oh my, with the fake leather version of it?
Oh, I don't have the fake.
I don't even have a copy of the Bible.
You were to blame for me getting this.
Oh, look at that. The Skeptic's
I saw you
Bible.
review this a while ago. I said, I got to get that.
It's terrific.
It really is.
Terrific. It's the whole Bible with running commentary, with running caustic commentary.
I'm not even going to say it.
So, Medium John, I was watching just for a minute, and you mentioned me. You must have heard that voice coming across. Lester Dent.
Synchronicity.
That is the author. I read the Big Book of Adventure Stories. Had a Lester
Right.
Dent.
He was a usual Doc Savage writer, but there were 100.
There were more than one. Yeah.
There were 100 of them that weren't written by him. So, and this guy that wrote The Road to Laramie was one of those people.
Okay, one of the other ones. All right. And that's another reason I don't go to church.
As if I needed another.
Mm-hmm.
The point isn't to avoid going to church. The point is to make sure you go to the polls.
Yep.
I could use a good dunking now that I think about it.
Yes, but Cobalt Dragon, I've already mentioned this in this live stream. You're worried for the people in the United States, and you are no more than 30 minutes away from either a nuclear submarine or a hidden military base. So you should worry about yourself as well. None of I always reject the implied comfort in statements like, boy, things don't look good for you in the U.S. We're not talking about Croatia going fascist here.
Yeah,
we're talking about the most powerful country in the history of the world going fascist. There won't be any safe havens. There won't be, oh, I see that a rabid antisocial fascist took over America. Isn't that too bad for them? No, no, that's not how it works.
Because if he got into office, Putin would have a free hand, would be arms for Russia instead of arms for Ukraine.
It's really a mind-blowing concept. If we let him back in again, oh my God, Well,
the idea of American going fat, I mean, who was it? It Can't Happen Here by Sinclair Lewis. He did that in the 30s before Hitler became. And
if you look at the news at any given day, but let's say today, Donald Trump put out a tweet or whatever you want to call it about Memorial Day, and it is absolutely insane.
I saw a headline. He said something about.
I'm not saying that it's not factual. It's the statement of someone who is out of his mind. It is insane. We're long past doctrinal differences here. It's just the statement of someone who's nuts. And there are 150 million people in this country who read that and thought, yeah. That's like
no. Well, it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Or it won't happen. It won't happen. We have checks and balances. It won't happen.
Right. Or they read that statement of his that he put out today and think, yeah, well, if you read in here and there, some of it makes sense. When it's been said many times before, but it's absolutely true. If a relative of yours posted that same paragraph, you would have them involuntarily committed.
It's crazy.
Anyway.
It's the best we got.
All right. Todd. Wow. Talk about having a wealth of knowledge on live night. Fantastic. Hi, Steve. I'm ashamed to admit that I only live 35 minutes away from the Brattle and have never gone there.
Wow.
Well, we can fix that, right? We can make a date to meet at the Brattle, right?
There you go.
I am hoping to make it to Boston in September.
Oh yeah, that's right.
My wife really wants to cruise, and the ship debarks at 8 a.m. in Boston, and I'm thinking, why not spend a night in Boston instead of going home?
Most definitely. At least one.
You could come over and meet the Bean.
I could. So I'm definitely looking for. The thing is, she's looking for a deal because now that we're retired, she's not bound by a work schedule, and we almost left tomorrow. There was a deal where you had like $347 per ticket per person.
Wow.
For like a 7-night cruise.
Jeez.
And then she called him up and said, well, that does not include the taxes, does not include this. And it basically comes up to normal price. But they do have deals, and we're not working, so why not just take advantage one day and go somewhere?
Go somewhere like perhaps into the comments?
Into the comments? All right. We don't have that many comments right now. He's the one Todd's not been in the brow. Hey, Courtney.
And we were talking about Courtney.
Greg wanted to say hello.
Greg and I were talking about you, Courtney, earlier.
Trust me, I get the mess here in Canada and the big picture.
I hope so.
Which summer reading events are you all psyched about? Okay, I've got a bunch.
Oh, me too.
All right, Steve, you're the guest. What are your top psyched events?
Oh, God. Well, they all start, on Friday, right? They all start on the 1st of June.
Well, some have started, but yeah.
There's Book Trek.
I'm not doing Book Trek.
There's June on the Range.
June on the Range, I'm there.
There's Rocket Summer in July.
I'm doing that.
Jane Austen July. It's high time I reread Persuasion.
I'm skipping Jane Austen July.
Yeah.
And of course, Book Trek continues in July and in August. And then, of course, there's Garb August.
Right.
And there's something else in August as well. Oh, and in June, there's Dune in June.
Dune in June. All right.
We're reading Dune.
The thing is, I read Dune in September. So
look at that Penguin Classic Deluxe edition. Oh, that is such a great edition. But Alan, what's wrong?
What?
You seem to have only one copy. What's the matter? Did you have a house fire or something?
I love Persuasion, though.
It's the very first book he's held up all night where he only has one copy.
Yep, I'm in a lot of those. I'm in doing Big Books of Summer.
What is Big Books of Summer? I've seen videos.
Big Books of Summer is just say read a book that's more than 400 pages long. So I actually looked through my June on the Range, and a couple of my June on the Range books were more than 400 pages. So already I've got those in. Ulysses, we're doing Ulysses, so that was included. And I had some other books that I'd already wanted to read, and said I just made a list and said, well, I've already got 8 books that I'm.
And Big Books of Summer is all summer long?
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Oh, fantastic.
And Steve, I absolutely guarantee that you're going to be reading the book that's more than 400 pages long over the summer.
I'll have to look at those videos and maybe signal boost them. Do people on BookTube mind when I do that, do you think?
Something? My Big Books of Summer has gotten twice the number of views my videos usually do. So it's a popular event. So you could boost it. Sue Jackson's channel, she's the one that created it. I mean, she's a smaller channel, but give her a boost. I mean, you're going to be doing. I mean, you are participating.
I'm going to be doing it anyway. You're right, so I might as well. With Star Trek, it's not that hard. But what's a vintage science fiction novel?
Oh, the Rocket Summer.
That's over 400 pages long. So many of them weren't. They were intentionally written to be short.
They were. The one I'm doing, or think I'm going to reread Stranger in a Strange Land.
That counts. Yeah.
But it's written in 1961, so I'm pretty sure that is more than 400 pages long.
In the 60s, science fiction authors, if they brought a long manuscript to their editor, they'd just be told, no, we're not going to do this.
Well, Dune was more than 600, no, more than 500.
It was rejected by everybody.
It was published by Chilton.
But are there any classic science fiction novels that are over 400 pages? Any at all? I mean, not from the late 60s, verging on the 1970s when it became common to do, but before that.
Like the 50s and 40s.
I can't think of a single one. off the top of my head.
Not up the top of my head. If we keep saying Michael K. Vaughan, Michael K. Vaughan, Michael K. Vaughan, he might appear because it's 3 hours early in California.
He's probably working. He works so hard all the time. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well, I know what his job is. It's not an easy job he has.
What about Forever War? Is that
Forever War is 70s and under 400.
It's really good though.
Except the last 2 pages.
Right. Well, right. But the last 2 pages and right. But it's still, most of it is really good.
Well, Harrigan was talking about it when he was on the live, so I've been waiting for it from the library. Finally appeared. So I'll read that.
Okay.
And I'm only participating in one, the most important, that it's almost
there's also Faulkner in August.
Yeah, the best, the most wonderful time of the year. Faulkner in August.
I could swear there's something I read.
There's some, let's see.
But now, Steve, we've got to find a long science fiction novel from the 40s or 50s.
I can't think. I don't remember how long Voyage to Arcturus is, but it's not strictly science fiction anyway. All I think about when I think about books like this, if I leave out stuff like Dune or Stranger in a Strange Land, I think about the mid to late 70s. I think about the really long novels that John Brunner wrote. I think about that all of a sudden, when it was possible for science fiction to get a commercial agent who would say, well, all right, go ahead, write something long as it's got literary merit. Whereas in the 50s and 60s, no one associated literary merit with science fiction except science fiction writers.
Now, something just popped into my head. It's not necessarily science fiction. I think it's more but The Worm Ouroboros by E.R. Edison.
Yeah, that's prototypical fantasy, though.
Yeah, that's more
no
fantasy.
Science fiction in it. It would count for length, but I don't think you could find an overlapping category for Big Book Summer and Rocket Summer. You'd find it for all these other categories. Well, I'll have to watch those videos about Big Book Summer. That sounds like a lot of fun, especially since, like you say, I'm going to participate anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I might as well do that. And I'm hoping that I participate tomorrow. I'm hoping that Reagan shows up tomorrow. I'd like it if this game of footsie was over with between me and the publisher.
Okay.
Anticipation.
Indeed.
Well, I'm praying that in tomorrow's emails I am not told by some straight-faced publicist, sorry, we don't have galleys of it. When I have 5 different photos on my phone of 5 different critics holding up the galley. So you do have galleys of it. I'm hoping I don't hear that.
You know, I saw Reagan back in the 80s at Bowling Green State University. There was first they kind of picked up the campus for a week and people talking, you could see him walking around. But there was one of those Humvee helicopters came up and flew over, and Reagan was waving like that. And then from the other direction came the real Humvee, went, had a decoy, and that was cool.
Well, Alan, when I was working for Crown Books and Borders, I had an apartment in Bethesda, Maryland. And you had my old little apartment right here. And across the street was NIH.
Oh, my.
And across the street from NIH is the Naval Medical Center, where the presidents go for their annual checkups. So I remember once the streets were closed, and you heard a big helicopter coming, and some president was getting an exam in that place,
Interesting.
Not really. It's more of a pain in the rear because I wanted to go to the subway station and get to work, and it was closed.
I met the man.
Oh.
In Nashua, New Hampshire, when he was running for president. One time that he's running for president. It's just shaking hands and making nice with people and asking pro forma questions. And he said, so, how do you do? What do you do? What are you interested in? And I said, you're not going to be interested in what I'm interested in. And he said, what's that? And I said, books. And his wife was right next to him, and she just rolled her eyes. Said he reads all the time, and he was really interested. he was really interested in him.
Wow.
He asked. I remember he asked me. He was holding my hand. He had a handshake like a steel vise. I guess all politicians must have that. But he was still holding my hand. It said, "Is Frederick? I think it was Frederick Forsyth's latest book. You wanted to know, is it any good?"
Wow.
Well, you can tell presidents who read. I mean, Barack Obama every year lists his favorite books. I don't always agree with them, but at least I think he does read the books and comes out with them. And one year with Bill Clinton was president, and they had a picture of him walking to the Air Force One helicopter, and he was holding a Stephen Hunter novel.
Oh.
You know, I used to like Stephen Hunter novels a lot.
They are really good.
What?
They are really good.
My favorite is Dirty White Boys.
Oh, no kidding. Is it really? That's one of the least typical ones.
It is, but that's what I like. But he got into this character, a sniper character, and he wrote it. The first one was really good. Second was good. And third, okay, you're still writing about this character?
Yeah.
And then he wrote about his father, which was good. That Downton Havana, that was good. But then after a while, I mean, I'm a little bit odd where I think series usually last 4 to 5 books, being really good. And then they can get very formulaic.
Usually, yes. I want to stick up here for Donna Leone, whose Inspector Bernetti books are in the 20s and still wonderful. All of them are wonderful. But usually, yeah. Usually. Although Clinton didn't. I mean, he liked the idea of reading those books, but he didn't read them.
You think it was just a prop?
I'm sure that he liked the idea of reading, and I'm sure that was genuine. But once he gets on Air Force One, he's talking the whole time. Not reading. Maybe he would read when he's alone. Although he seemed to have liked to do other things when he was alone.
He likes cigars. We're getting a little naughty. Let's catch up with some of the comments. Is there a Western with a science fiction twist that could be read to transition from June on the Range to Rocket Summer July?
There is, yeah, there are a few. The one that isn't it terrible? I'm remembering the cover. I'm remembering the cover most of all. The cover, Greg, you might remember it. It was an old Ace mass market paperback. The cover was, I think, by the brothers Hildebrandt. It was a stereotypical metal robot, but he had a cowboy hat on. He was walking through the saloon door.
Oh.
Does that ring any bells?
It's ringing bells, but I can't.
I want to say Clifford Seamack, but it might not be. But,
no.
But if Medium John Silver, if you go to Google and you type in science fiction Western, you'll get it. In fact, if you go to Google image search, switch to image search, and just look for that cover. But you'll find plenty of others too.
Yeah. I remember
your novels by Manly Wade Wellman are basically just Westerns.
There was one I was this is like way before the Kindle. I had a subscription to the Analog magazine or Asimov Science Fiction, one of those two, and they did serials every now and then. Like you have 6-part story between every magazine, and they had one set on some distant planet that got fascinated with the gunslinger West as their mode for civilization. So you had aliens. No, he had a cowboy riding something that wasn't quite a horse. I don't remember that. I mean, it really was not a great book, but there's stuff like that out there. Jenny, could you read the Firefly novels? Ha ha.
How many Firefly novels are there? Do I even want to know?
I have no idea. Medium John Silver. I guess you can watch Cowboys and Aliens.
Right. Well, Cowboys and Aliens or Westworld.
Yeah, I was
Right.
thinking Westworld too.
Either the movie or the TV. You could do that for either one of them.
What world would you want to go and visit, Steve, in Westworld?
None.
I would not go to either one of those worlds.
I'd go to the Renaissance world. That'd be fun. I couldn't hack it in the West, the West town. I'd be dead. And,
You know something? A sword in the belly is just as deadly as a bullet in the belly. So don't say now. There's one question on June on the Range is whether I'm going to watch some old westerns next month. I'm not a huge movie fan, but there are some good ones that I'm really tempted.
There are some good ones.
There are some good ones.
That's big of you.
I have this hankering to rewatch The Wild Bunch. You don't like The Wild Bunch?
There are some good ones, and the whole universe out there, all the gin joints in the world, and he picks The Wild Bunch. Good Lord. I have 2 words for you, Greg.
All right.
John Wayne. Okay? I'll be watching lots and lots of westerns in just about 2 weeks.
Where is the romance reading event, Michael K. Vaughan?
I wanted so much to do a romance reading event with Sarah from the Bookish Knitter. I wanted to do Summer Fling, where we make a romance event. Just never happened. She's just too busy.
You know what Western I like very much is a novel, and I really like the movie too, is Dances with Wolves. And I heard a story about the guy who wrote it. He's working in Bisbee, Arizona. It's a copper town, pretty small town. He was he was a dishwasher in a Chinese restaurant. He said it was really hard because they have all those tiny little cups. But yeah, and then one of his friends got the the manuscript to Costner without an agent, or he had a friend who was a writer's agent and got it to an actor's agent.
And Dances with Wolves, the movie, doesn't get enough credit anymore. People don't remember it. It doesn't get onto lists. It's great, and people don't remember that. They don't. Maybe it's because all the lists are made by young people, so they don't remember how they weren't alive when people were loving it back when it first came out.
I remember seeing it in the theater and liking it, but it didn't stick with me as anything I'd go out and watch again and again.
Oh, I like the little story about I almost said the romance, but it is a little romance in it.
Romance, sure. Stands with Fists. It's a little bit of a romance.
Yeah, now Costner has another movie coming out soon. I saw an ad for it. Another Western.
Yeah. 20-minute standing ovation at the Venice Film Festival.
Yeah.
It actually made him cry. He was standing there just crying, tears running down his face.
Yeah. So
the audience wouldn't stop applauding. How wild is that? That's pretty wild.
Oh, this brings up a question that we had on one of our other live shows. It was brought up by Criminale. Does England have an equivalent genre to the Western? He's trying to say maybe the high seas, Forster, and
it'd be the high seas. Yeah, it'd be Nelsonian Navy. I would think that would be it. Sure. I mean, that would certainly work to a broader selection of the population than maybe King Alfred's resistance to the Vikings. Where King Alfred fighting the Vikings wouldn't work because the hero is in the place of the Indians, and you don't ever want that. You don't ever want that. So, no, it'd be the high seas, definitely.
Because I recommended in his comment, High Seas September.
Well, that was another reading event that just died, too, if by sea. Mark and I did a reading event dedicated to nautical fiction and nonfiction, but again, he's too busy. He's just too busy to do it. All these great events, Summer Fling and 2 If by Sea, ought to be in their 10th year by now.
Unfortunately, a lot of us read much slower.
Yes, so I've been told.
I'm about to reread Dune for the first time in a long time.
Read along with me. We'll be reading Dune in June, and we'll be having a blast.
I thoroughly. It's like the 4th time I've read that book in my life, somewhere around there. But it's good.
I did another basic video today. I did one yesterday about the basic premise of the book. Today I go down the basic cast of the book. Who are the people? Who are the characters? Just to get you on as much of the same page as possible so you can just enjoy the book without saying, who's this again? What's that again? And I've got a couple more videos I want to make.
What do you think of the sequels?
I love them.
All of them?
All of them. Yeah, I love them. Absolutely love them. Actually, God Emperor of Dune is my favorite Dune book. I like it more than Dune.
Okay. I've only read up to God Emperor, and that was a long time ago. Now, my one problem is every time I hit Children of Dune, there are some things in that book that really doesn't work for me.
It's some of the things that Frank Herbert tries to do in Children of Dune are a little weird. They're a little weird. His idea that your cells contain all your memories, that was not scientifically valid even when he was writing his book. And of course, he has to stick with it because he's put it in his book. But in Children of Dune, not only do your cells contain your memories, but they can take over your body. They can take you over. That don't get that at all.
No,
Alia,
mine was when
Alia is basically possessed.
Isn't there a scene where a character picks up a spaceship and throws it?
Not a whole spaceship, no, but a gigantic metal door, a door that's as big as a wall, and that's young Leto II, who's just a little boy, but he has accepted the sand trout onto his skin.
Yeah, I know, but I
living armor on his skin, and it's changed his whole physiology almost overnight. So
I know,
even at that early point, he can't really be hurt by laser fire, and he's super strong and super fast. So when he has his final confrontation with his
I forgot. I remember the sand trout, and I'm reading the superpower. And my thing reading the book was you really could have scaled back the superpower a bit.
Well, every once in a while, you'll get a genuinely superpowered character, not just someone who's a great fighter, but someone who's genuinely superpowered. Little Leto II, before at the end of Children of Dune, he genuinely has superpowers. And then in the later books, in Chapter House Dune, we have a character called Miles Tegg, who is exposed to a torturous amount of spice and gains a superpower. He gains super speed. He can move so fast that people can't see him. It's just that, very discreetly that. I don't know what possessed Frank Herbert. I don't think he was a comic book fan. But every once in a while, he liked to do that.
All right. Thanks, Cobalt Dragon. Hopefully catching up with everyone in the next live stream that pops up. Hannah, Reagan used my name in a speech one time. Long story. Steve, yes, I'm definitely going to make a point to hit the Brattle very soon. Is there a good time to go? Like a certain month or day, time, or any time is good?
Well, I'm a lonely old shut-in, so any time is fine. I like to go to the Brattle first thing in the morning before the dealers get there. But if that doesn't work for somebody, most people don't like to get there don't like to do anything first thing in the morning when they're in Boston. So perfectly happy to go later. For the joy of meeting, I'm perfectly happy to go later.
You've been to the Brattle before, Greg, haven't you?
I've been to Boston once in my life.
Right.
That's when I was a freshman at university, and I had a plane. I had to get to Henniker, New Hampshire to get to my college. And there are no airports out in New Hampshire worth talking about, especially so we flew into Boston, and I was going to meet up a friend who lived in Massachusetts, hour or so out of Boston. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll meet you up in Harvard Yard." And
well, you're not saying you drove to Henniker?
No.
You would have taken a prop plane to some little field, right? Well, some little airfield.
From Boston we drove.
Oh,
it's like a 2 or 3 hour drive, something like that.
Oh.
But no, that's the one time, and I got to walk around Boston, that downtown Boston area.
So is the answer yes or no?
No, I have been to Boston, but that was 84.
You haven't been to
not the Brattle.
Well, that's what I asked, the Brettle.
Was a Brattle even around in 1984?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So many great bookstores.
Unfortunately, the great bookstores are nowhere near me. A Google search turned up Coil Hunter Chronicles by Dean F. Wilson
Dean
for
Wilson, familiar.
Western SF.
I wonder if that is what's the word for the Western version of steampunk? I'm not bringing up the term off the top of my head, but the name sounds familiar. No, I've never read it, but there are transitions. Although I would argue against doing a transitional novel. I would argue just jump right in, rather than try and find something that blends both.
Yeah, I mean,
what fun it's going to be. Just overloading. I'm going to overload on Westerns. I'm going to overload on Star Trek. I'm going to overload on Dune. Whoa, it'll be wonderful fun.
I'm trying to keep my Western list manageable. Because
no more than one a day.
Mine is going to be 4 or 5 in the month, but that's still, for the average American, that's still probably pretty good.
I picked up a couple of these Ballard novels in the library at the library.
Let's see the covers. Ooh, I don't know this author. Todd Hunter is his first name. His first name is Todd Hunter. Todd Hunter Ballad. I do not know this author.
First time in paperback.
Does the Brattle have a good selection of Westerns?
No, they don't have a Western section. But they often turn up in the sale lot. Right now, the sale lot has 1 million hardcover Ed McBain novels. I keep thinking of Ollie every time I'm there. But they can always find Westerns out in the sale lot, always. But there's no home section for them inside the store. No.
And you said they don't really do science fiction either.
They do. There is a science fiction fantasy section, and now, thank God, there's also a romance section. But the Westerns would all be just in fiction. I'll take my little victories as I get them. It's great that there's a romance bay. I'm hoping that it sticks around. I don't think it will. Is the Brattle, they'll clear off a floor-to-ceiling shelf and think, we should try this, that, or the other thing, Judaica or Irish mythology or something like that. They'll fill it based on a recent buy, and they'll keep an eye on it. And if in 6 months barely anyone has done anything to it, well, those things will all get priced out onto the sale lot, and that space will be used for something else. The inside of the shop is always in flux like that, depending on whether or not it takes off. And I don't think romances are going to take off. I don't think they will. I wish, but I don't think so.
I'd love to see Boston spend time there.
You get me so psyched. Go ahead, Alan.
Well, I just said the Celtics are doing very well too. They just beat Pacers. Una and I watch basketball every weekend together. Well, not together. We just comment back and forth. But Boston's doing well.
Now's the time to visit.
Well, if I'm visiting, it's probably going to be September, but we'll see. The thing is, I'm really looking forward to the Brattle. You talked about it so much. I want to go to that sale lot and see if I can find any of these old paperbacks. Because
It's unlikely. It's possible, but it's unlikely. You'll find a lot of them inside the shop.
Oh, inside.
But probably not in the sale lot, no.
They're getting smart?
Yeah, they just get snapped up.
Wow.
The paperback, the little mass market paperbacks will always be on the dollar carts, and the dollar carts get snapped up.
Now, you see, I remember back in the early 2000s or somewhere, we had used bookstores, and they had all these old paperbacks, and they had tons of these old paperbacks. And you just, this one's a little better condition than that one. I'll get and it's like $1.05
or less.
Wow.
I remember I went to one of the used bookstores in Madison, Wisconsin, back when there were 10 of them, eons ago. And it was a great used bookstore, everything on shelves and whatnot, and a nice guy at the front desk. And when we were talking about books, he said, it sounds like you're a real reader. And I said, yes, I'm a real reader. And he said, well, I've got a back room. If you want to poke around back there, I haven't priced anything yet, but you can just take anything you want and I'll, put it in a box, and the whole box, once you fill a box, that'll be $5. And I went back there and it was tables just piled with old mass market paperbacks, science fiction, fantasy, Westerns, historical fiction. And I was picky. It's like you say, back then it never occurred to us that these wouldn't be here forever. So I saw those piles. I think I pulled 2 books out.
Because when my wife was thinking of moving, I had these old paperbacks, and I look at the cover. Oh, I'll just rebuy it.
Oh yeah, but you can't
And
rebuy
then
it.
and now it's $50 on the internet, and it's like, no, not worth it.
I should have, at that shop in Madison, I should have said, okay, $5 a box. I'll take 10 boxes. He would have done it. They were junk to him. The internet didn't exist. It was 20 years from before the internet would exist, so he didn't know that one day he'd be able to make a killing.
I was at a used bookstore in all places, Niagara Falls, and it was in a not great section of Niagara Falls. And because I looked it up on Google for the books, like one of the few bookstores left open. I went in, and the door was open, and there was a cat sitting outside. There were no lights on. And I kind of walked in. Am I going to walk into a body? And I said, hello. And they go, oh, hey there, brother. And there's a guy behind the counter. All the lights are off because he had no customers. So he turned all the lights off. He said, oh, watch. Okay. So he turned on the lights of the store. And then I walked.
Used book shopping in Western Massachusetts with a friend. We were just driving from one spot to another trying to find used bookstores. We pulled up the gravel driveway of a shop that had used books sign on the front lawn. And we got out of the car and looked down the driveway, and behind the screen door of the shop, there was this enormous dog just staring at us. And my friend said, maybe we shouldn't. What if the dog's not friendly? And I said, all dogs are friendly. And he said, oh, that's right. How about you go first? And the dog was adorable. He didn't like my friend. He actually didn't like strangers, but we smooched quite a bit. And I did a lot of shopping. and the owner, bless his heart, gave me a deal. He said, my dog never likes people. If he likes you, you must be worth a deal. I'll give you a deal on your books.
Because you talk about dogs, because we have a neighbor. She has, I think it's called a miniature Doberman Pinscher.
A mini pin.
A mini pin. So what happens is that she walks her dog every day. And I usually go walk. I meet up with this walking by, a couple times a week. And for whatever reason, this dog adores me. Because she usually sees me coming down like half a block away. I'm walking, the dog stops, looks at me, and then she takes the dog off the leash. And the dog just runs directly for me. And if I said dopey dog face, you know what I'm talking about, right? She's got dopey dog face running as fast as this little tiny dog can run. And just jumps on me. And I've done nothing but really say hi to her on the street. So I don't know what it is, but I've seen her walk by other people on the street and the dog just ignores them.
They always know best.
I happen to have a picture of a Doberman here.
Whoopsie.
Yeah. I'm trying to draw it for a woman.
Now that I've got my iPad fired up here, what was the name of that author? Todd Hunter what?
Todd Ballinger.
Todd Ballard.
Hunter Ballinger. Ballard.
Okay. All right. I have to look for him.
Yeah. Boy, really small print. I don't think I'll read this one. This one is new, easy to read print. Yeah, much easier. Bill Drake is the character. Huh.
Yeah, they started doing those. The paperback started having the easier to read print because the publishers realized that no young people read Westerns. It's only older readers, so you'd better make it the print bigger or you're going to lose them.
Yeah, I mean, we had one bookstore in my area. It's not very big. And like 2 years ago, she had a Western section, and there was like 3 or 4 shelves of Louis L'Amour. And you had a couple, same thing. You could, pick and choose which Louis L'Amour title you wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And I went back 2 weeks ago, and it's now down to a half a shelf of Louis L'Amour. Now, this is a used bookstore. I mean, I'm almost positive it's going to go out of business within a year or two. The proprietor looks like she's about 80.
Oh.
But,
look at the old ads in these Louis L'Amour books that you can like take out. They're cardboard ads for.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah. And free, if you mail in for free, you can get something, Greg.
Yeah, well, I would mail that in and see what you get.
Yeah, I've done that before. I think out of a Mad magazine, I did.
Now, the thing is, you're going to get return to sender probably nowadays, but
so
yeah.
Before I have to go.
Okay.
But before I do, I have a question for you two that involves BookTube events.
Okay.
We mentioned, for instance, I mentioned an abortive event that I did with Mark, 2 If by Sea, nautical literature. And I did an abortive event I did with Sarah, Summer Fling, about romances. What do you two think is missing? What kind of event do we need that we don't have? Is there anything really obvious that we just aren't doing?
I think we're covering most of the genres.
Is it only genres? We cover genres and we cover book lengths. Anything else that really could be a really big event, a really popular event? I don't know myself.
I don't know. I mean,
I thought you were asking. Yeah, never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
The only one that I've ever come up with is books to movies. I think that would make a really fun event. The connection between books and movies.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Some people would like. I mean, I did my video, my novelization of Jaws in the movie, and I thought it'd be really popular.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
It flopped as a video.
But maybe that just means that you're some sort of loser.
It could mean that some sort of.
Are we ruling that out?
No, we're not ruling that out. But then again, I did get 600 views on Big Books this summer. So
yeah, and that just came out this morning, didn't it? But sometimes I miss stuff. I didn't even see your Ulysses announcement until like 9 days later.
So here's Medium John Silver. I'm actually doing this, John. You know that short story weekends.
You're doing a whole series on short stories.
Yes, and if I went by the algorithm and views, I'd stop.
Oh yeah, I noticed. I love them, but they are absolutely tumbleweeds for viewers.
And I
don't know why that is. Every time you do a short story video like that and it just doesn't perform at all, I always want to sort of hug you and say, Michael K. Vaughan and I know exactly how you feel, because every Wednesday we do a comic book video that nobody watches.
Oh.
So I actually want to do some things that why don't people like short stories anymore? Or is it just...
Is it that, or is it that BookTube events really take off if a big channel is involved? And that will do it. Just because of the number of people it's getting in front of. Oh, yeah. Like if you did Medium John Silver is proposing short story weekends. So if you were to do Shorty September, something like that, only you were to launch it with a gigantic channel, would that suddenly change things? I don't know.
I don't know.
I do. Of course it would.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I understand the reason why those short story videos don't do well. It's the same reason the book reviews don't do well, because people look at what it's about and they either say, I've read the short story, I don't need to hear about it, or I haven't read it, so I don't need to hear about it. Oh. The minute you specify not just a type of reading, but one particular thing.
I've noticed, individual book review, traditionally, for me, don't do as well as some other kind of subject.
Yeah, I've been doing that since I started too. Maybe I should start doing like a Friday reads, just all in one.
Well, like poetry Thursday. I mean, poetry Thursday bombs even harder.
Yeah, I do that.
I've never done a book review on BookTube. Can't imagine what it would be like to do. Can't imagine what that would be like. Not because I don't care about views. I just can't imagine doing it. I can't imagine anything else. Sure, but a book review to me is the thing you write.
Right. I mean, mine is a half-assed little.
I don't call them. I just say I'm just talking about a book that I read.
Yeah.
So my impression, called a book impression.
There you go. Well,
Steve.
I'm afraid I have to mosey along.
Yeah, Frida probably needs
Oh God, no. No, she can go forever. No. I've got a phone call with someone at about 10:15.
Oh. Okay. Oh, anyway, we've been on for 2 hours anyway, so it's like
it's gone by like a minute.
I know it goes fast.
As I said, this is like my pub night where you invite your friends down to a pub and you just sit and talk about whatever comes to your mind.
Most definitely.
All right, Steve. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
For being a guest.
Yep, I made a few notes.
I wanted to mention Dune. James and Kiri read Dune, but I love the character name Duncan, Idaho.
You should read Dune.
He should.
That's why I didn't. I haven't read it either. I'm almost ashamed to say.
I know. Oh, okay, Steve. We got to let you go, and it's been 2 hours. So, thank you.
It's my pleasure. Have a good night.
Everyone in the comments who's made a comment or just watching silently.
Thanks to all the comments. That was wonderful.
It is. Okay.
Midnight Live.
I'm calling it a night.